two, one, one, two, one, two, one, one, two.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Artists Under Construction. My name is Moves Johnson.
And I'm Neon Tom. Thank you for tuning in, guys. This is the show where two guys with beards help you become better as an artist. We are here with our special guest, WhereIsLuna. You can find her on Spotify and Instagram. Thank you for joining us here on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Really excited. So, Luna, why don't you, for people who don't know who you are, can you give us a little bit of background and detail about yourself?
Sure. I'm an independent artist from Toronto, and I'm also a songwriter. That's basically how I started. I started songwriting when I was probably like 13, I'd say, and it was more so like poems and stories. And I kind of fell in love with the idea that you can create stories in songs, and that's like its own world. Like, you know how you watch a movie and there's like a story, a plot, whatever, and then when the movie ends, there's other movies. I felt like songs were in a same sort of way, that each one could have its own story, and you could take it on a journey in that song. So that's basically how I started songwriting, and yeah, it blossomed, I guess, and here we are.
How long ago?
Cool.
How long ago did you start songwriting? How long have you been doing this for?
On and off, honestly, because I didn't go to school for music, which I really wanted to do, but I had strict parents. So I went to school for business, actually. I went to school for accounting, and I was in between, I think, my third year when I basically had an existential life crisis. And I was sitting there like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I'm so unhappy already. I hate my classes. All I want to do is make music and sit in my room and like play my guitar and write songs for hours. And I was so miserable. And my friends were all like partying and like, why aren't you like doing this? Or like, why don't you just do that? And yeah, honestly, it's something like clicked in like the moments where I was really down, where I was like, you know what? I don't want to be doing something that I'm going to be unhappy for the rest of my life. I don't want to spend my life working for someone else or doing stuff for someone else. And I know that music makes me happy. The only thing that makes me like that happy and songwriting. So I started really getting into it and being a lot more serious about my songwriting and music process around my third year of university. It was like maybe 6 years ago now, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, I started again seriously about 6 years ago.
Amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I feel like we don't tell that many stories about me and Moves Johnson and how we met and stuff, but it's actually like ringing this bell in my head of how we met the first time, because we started writing a story and a song together, and we were in school.
That was genuinely, like our first actual encounter was a songwriting experience. We wrote a song about squirrels.
Awesome.
And specifically a story song, because and we kind of connected on that level, because we were like I'd never written a song before, and I'm like, oh, let's make this into a story, and let's like make it about squirrels taking over a farm, and then we just our creativity kind of went out there.
Yeah, and it was because there was three people in the group. There was you, me, and another guy. And
the other
he was
person
looking
did not
at,
care.
Yeah, he's like, "What are you doing?" And Tom and I,
and you were like, "Yes,
immediately
songwriting, stories."
You know how sometimes you meet somebody and like as a person, sometimes you meet somebody and you're like, "Oh, we're gonna be friends. You're cool, right?" And then sometimes you can have that same relationship, like creatively, where you start writing something with somebody or playing music with somebody, and you're like, oh no, you get it though, like you know what I'm doing, you know where I'm going, and and it was just immediately that kind of gel. It's a really cool feeling to have that. So, and
For
it just
sure.
spirals out of control. I think I've always said it's a blessing to be able to play music and to write music, especially to be able to do it like for a living and as a full-time thing. But it's also kind of a curse. Like you said, you were going crazy thinking
Yeah.
about like having, you know, your business job and full-time job in that way. And it's, yeah, like I don't write songs and perform because I want to. Like I do want to, but I do it because I have to.
Yeah.
Like otherwise I would be insane. I really would.
Same.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, totally. So
There's a really cool atmosphere line where he says like he writes these songs because he's saying what he can't express in words because he's not, you know.
yeah, if I was better at finding the right words to say, I wouldn't need to write these songs.
Honestly.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really what it is. And the other thing was, like, I was always a very shy person, especially like in school and growing up. I moved around a lot as a kid, and so I never really spent more than 1 year at any particular school. And then so I didn't really develop social skills, and after a point, you're just like, why do I even need to make friends? I'm never going to see you people again, right? And so I never really developed that, you know, charisma. And when I started playing music and when I started like performing for people, it's like that's a trait that you need. You need to be able, especially if you're like the front person for the band, you need to be able to say, "Hi guys, how are you?" Like thank you for coming and welcome to the show, and you need to keep the crowd, you know, moving and dancing and having a good time. And that wasn't something that I learned until I started taking the stage. It was like trial by fire, really. Like you're like, no, I have to be charismatic, and it's cool because like that's a life skill that I've been able to take from like that musical experience, from that artistic experience. But now if I go talk to somebody, like if I meet a new person, I'm able to sort of shake their hand like, "Hi, how you doing?" And I didn't have that ability before. I couldn't like look someone in the eye and just be like, "Hey, how are you? Nice to meet you," which is really cool.
I think you're bringing up a really good point here because it's kind of cool that all three of us are solo musicians, or at least that's a big part of our art. So I'd love to talk to you about what you think are skills that helped you succeed as a solo musician, especially as opposed to like, you know, working with a band or short story writing or something else, just specifically that part that we all share right now.
Sure. I think that, and I think back to a lot of the time when I was in like back in my third year when I was like really in that space where, okay, I'm going to be serious about it. I think that a lot of things changed then. And some of the things that really helped me out was like literally pushing myself to just look up whatever events possible that I could get my ass to. Like I was in Guelph, right? So I had to take a bus to Toronto to go to these events, and sometimes the go buses don't end late. They end a bit early on the weekdays especially. So sometimes I would have to cut the event short at the end just so I could get home. Or like I would try my best to just, especially networking events. Like Indie Week had a lot. Indie Week was great because they had lots of free events, students, so of course broke. There were so many other events that they had, really cool ones where it was like only $5 or $10 for entry fee, and it'd be like network with local Toronto artists, network with like producers, network with I don't know, A&Rs or something like that. And there would be information nights, there would be like SoCan and I can't remember right now. There's so many other events that I went to that were like song associations or something like that, or Canadian Music Association events, and they would be either free or like $10. And I would be like, you know what? I'm gonna be serious. I need to go. I need to learn. I need to understand what's happening, especially in the industry, in my community first, to get my foot in and to just understand. Because especially since I wasn't studying music, so I had no idea, especially about the industry right now, right? So I'm like, okay, the first thing I need to do is understand what I'm getting myself into. So I hauled my ass to so many events, anything I could go to. I would have class at like 8:30 in the morning, like a grumpy ass professor for accounting, and you know what? I'd be going to these events and coming home at like 1:30 a.m., getting to bed at like 2:30 maybe. Oh my god. It was a mission, but you know what? It was so worth it. I don't regret any of it. I learned so much, met so many cool people. And the more people you meet, the more people you talk to, that's more experience too, right? You're meeting everyone from, I don't know, so many different areas of the community and music and what they've done, what they've experienced, what they've performed at, and like other people they've met, and like people are willing to share if you talk and try to get to know them. That was really hard for me too at first. Just trying to like walk up to somebody really cool and be like, "Hey, can I like talk to you about your experiences and be like learning about them, and can I buy you a drink?" Like, it was really hard to get over that at first, but you do it enough times, you push yourself when you have that like, little bit of courage, and usually there's a bar at these events, so that helps.
Yeah. Liquid courage, right?
Yeah, liquid courage. You get a shot in and you're just like, okay, time to go. Pick a person you think is cool, beeline, and try to make conversation. At least one person, that's the goal of tonight. If I could do more than one person, amazing. That was always my goal. I would walk in, just get a drink, okay, find someone cool, look at the list of speakers or look at the list of featured people on this event panel and look at, like, while they're talking, okay, who do I want to speak to? I'd make notes on like the paper. I'd be like, okay, this person does this. This person has a really cool thing, worked with this really cool person that I want to talk about, or like, I don't know, like their cool experiences stood out to me. So I want to go find them after the panel and have a conversation with them. And I go get that shot and just like beeline over there, be like, hey, not let myself talk myself out of it. Take the shot and straight over, like, yeah. And then if I could do one, sometimes I would get to like 5 other people before I had to leave or more. And it just keeps going like that. Like, you get better and better at just pushing yourself, because the first bit is always the hardest for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very cool. That's really good advice.
I really like how you said, like, you're like, take the shot and go. Like, by the time you have a chance to have the self-doubt, you're already in the middle of the conversation.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's a really good way to do it. Sometimes you just have to get off your ass and go for it, and that's
and there's
For sure.
There's another really good thing you said in that, which kind of reminds me of a funny story on our part, which is you know the speakers ahead of time and know who you're going to go talk to, because
Yes.
an
Very
event
important.
that we've gone to around here is Canadian Music Week. And when we
Nice.
submitted our EPK, our electronic press kit, we didn't get accepted for like the first Canadian Music Week, so they gave us free tickets to go see speakers and stuff instead of performing. And
yeah. I remember
I think
that.
you'll do you remember this? Because I don't remember specifically, but
we
you
went to
and you spoke to somebody who you didn't know who it was, but they were very famous. And I think you called them Ringo Starr.
it was yeah, it was like Lindsey Buckingham or something like that.
Yep. And they were like, "Do you know who I am?" And you were like,
I
"Ringo Starr."
genuinely thought he was Ringo. We were talking for like 5 minutes, and it's like, "Aren't you Ringo Starr?" And he was like, "No, I'm very much not." And he laughed a little bit, but he was not impressed. But it was
So know who you're talking to. It's a
Yeah.
very good.
Well, that was also
Oh,
the year
boy.
we did. I got. Not every moment of my life is the proudest moment, but
It's a good story.
We that was also the year where we had printed our first EP. I guess you could call it an EP, but like this is back before streaming and everything, so we had like tangible CDs, and it was the first time we'd ever like mass produced CDs like that, and we didn't really know all of the ins and outs of like distribution and things like that's part of why we were going to the events, was to learn these things. And we had wrapped them in like cling wrap, and like we had like I was living with like 3 other people at the time, and so there was this assembly line of like someone was cutting the cling wrap and sending it down, and then someone else was putting it in the CD, and another person had like a hair dryer to like shrink it
Yep.
over and stuff.
Oh,
and,
my
and melt
Lord.
it. Oh yeah, and it was like the most like indie thing we could, and we just went there with full confidence, and like anybody who would listen to us, we were like, here.
Give 'em a CD.
We would just leave stacks of them on tables and stuff, and people took them. It wasn't. I mean, it was our first ever EP. I don't think it was the greatest thing ever. It was also a lot harder to record stuff back in the early 2000s. The technology wasn't quite as advanced. Digital stuff wasn't keeping up with analog quite as well as it is now. But it was an experiment in networking and socializing and self-distribution, and we learned from that. Even if that technique didn't immediately work or get us a record deal, it got us in the door, and it got us it got us accustomed to how we were going to do this the next time. Like we went home, we made notes like, okay, we definitely made a mistake there. We need to do this better. Or that was
Made a
really
lot of
good.
mistakes.
Like surprisingly, when we tried it this way, like we didn't expect that to work, but it did. So, write that down. And yeah, it's always
the
a
home
process.
shrink wrapping. People loved it, even though it was really silly and
Oh
did
yeah,
it really badly.
like there were people that
But they
were like,
respected it.
like as we're doing it, I'm like, this isn't like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm attaching my name to this. But then like you go and hand it out, and everybody was like, I haven't seen that done since the '80s, man. Well done. And like they were really like into it, and like, oh, okay, that's like things that you're nervous about aren't necessarily the things that you should be nervous about, and other things that you're confident about are maybe things you need to pay more attention to, and you don't know until you try, right? And
Of course.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, especially about like you second guessing yourself in a moment where you're like, I've thought about this and I'm executing it right now, but now I'm like, am I really gonna do this? Am I actually gonna do that?
Yeah.
All the time. Oh my god, I can't tell you how many times I experience that too. Like not just for things like that, but when I'm writing, especially with the new song coming out right now, I don't know, maybe it's an artist thing where like we have a moment of self-doubt, and you're like in the moment when you're creating it, you're like near the end of the process, you're like, oh my god, I love my work, and you're like, this is great, this is on the right track, blah blah blah. And I'm sitting there when I got it back the first time, and I'm like, am I done? Like, yeah. And I'm just like, I don't know whether it's because I'm like, I feel like nothing's ever finished, or it's because, and that's the perfectionist and probably all of us, but either that or like, it's disappointing when you get to the end of something so special and you're like, I don't really want it to end. So then I start picking apart things where I'm like, maybe I need to do this, or maybe I need to tweak that, and you're just like creating more time for you to spend on this as well. But
well, that's the thing, right? Like the
Yeah.
process, like you said, it's you don't want to finish because that means you're done doing the fun thing, right? But
sure.
again, you have to, especially if you're self-producing, you have to sort of be impartial to it, and you have to know when to say, no, that's what's going to happen, or that's where we have to leave it, or you even in the opposite way, like you might be really happy about it because that idea that you had in your head, you finally put it, on paper or recorded it or whatever. But maybe you have to look at it objectively and be like, I can do that better. I can, up my standards a little bit. It can go both ways, and you have to. You really have to be knowledgeable about where your boundaries are, where they can be pushed and where they can't be. All of these things. I like that you said that. It's a very hard thing to do. Like a lot of the time, people hire a producer separately to take over this role, because it's really difficult to do that and be the creative element and all of these other things, right? So.
Yeah.
I actually am working with 2 different producers for the song I have coming out right now, and possibly the next few as well. But they're really helpful in that part of my process where they're like, I think you're getting a little out of hand right now. So maybe let's just take a step back and take a break and go for a walk, or like get some coffee and then come back and listen. And they're really good about that kind of thing, because I definitely need the check-in. I am a person that when I'm in my music zone and I'm creating, I don't like to leave, especially when I'm writing songs. And I don't care if it's like midnight when I start. If it's like 1 a.m. and I'm like in the zone and like, that tingling feeling of inspiration where you're just like, your brain is like, okay, I'm ready. And you start writing or you start creating music, and I don't ever, if it's really good and I know it's good, I don't stop. I don't let myself get up.
Yep.
I don't go eat a meal if it's during a meal time. I finish and I work for like 5-6 hours straight sometimes, because I'm like, I know I need to get this done and I don't want to lose it. That's the worst part, when you're feeling like I'm afraid of losing something. So I don't. A lot of the times I don't.
You have to ride that train, like if it shows up, you have to get on. You know what I mean? It's
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think there's some weird things about like being with an artist, because like I get up in the middle of the night lots of times to write things, because I know if I have a really good idea in the middle of the night, the next morning I'm not going to remember what it is. So I have to go and I have to write it down. And that definitely probably annoys people around me, but you got to deal with it because
my girlfriend has a 9 to 5 job. Like, she works Monday to Friday. She's got a very like traditional day job, and she doesn't understand sometimes. Like, she gets that like I'll play in bars at nighttime, or like that I don't have the same sort of schedule as she does. But like, yeah, it'll be 8:30 on a Saturday, and I'm sitting in my studio like doing stuff, and she's like, "It's the weekend. What are you like? Why are you working?" You're like, no, that's not. Like,
I'm doing the thing
that
I
is an
enjoy.
irrelevant part.
Yeah.
The weekend, the weekday. I only care about what day it is as far as like my agenda goes. Like as far as my scheduling of things. Like, oh, I have to be somewhere at this time on Wednesday. But like otherwise, yeah, it's 9 a.m. on Saturday, and you wake up and you're like, no, I have something to do. I have a song to write, or I have stuff to mix, or maybe students that you're teaching, that like this is the time that they have free, so you have to work with other people's schedules as well. Like I'm in Berlin and you guys are in Canada. Like we have to find there's a time difference. You know what I mean? We have to find a time that works for everybody in that, just to have this conversation. And like for people watching, we're recording this on a Sunday. And my girlfriend was she's like, "I'm so sorry you have to work on a Sunday." Like, it's not work when you like what you do. It's
Exactly. It's different when you love your work. It becomes something that's not like, oh, I have to work Monday to Friday, and then you like, oh my God, I hate the week, and then you love the weekend. No, you live every day when you're creating. You love the process. It's different, yeah.
They say if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And I disagree with that because...
Love that.
Well, like you were saying before, like you were going to bed at 2 a.m. and then waking up at 7 to go to school and stuff. Like, it's still work. Like, you're still putting effort into it. Like, but the difference is, like, when you're doing what you love, even a bad day at work is better than the best day at a job that you hate. And that's, I think, the motivation that I like to take. It's still work. You still put effort into it, but you feel so fulfilled. And that's...
100%.
I was about to make basically the same point, that I really like what you were saying, that like, yeah, you had to work like 5 hours really hard and then you had to go to school the next day. And I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of do the exact same thing, because when I'm on a roll and I've got a good track going on, I have to work 9 to 5 the next day. But I'm like, no, I'm staying up till 2 or 3 in the morning, because even though I'll be tired the next day, I'll be more satisfied knowing that I got my, my thing done, my passion out.
Yeah,
Of
like there's no
course.
stress hanging over you at that point.
Yeah, even though I'm more tired the next day, I feel better in a different way.
You feel productive. You feel like you've accomplished something.
Yeah, that the weight's been lifted off my shoulders.
Exactly.
So I wanted to ask, actually, because Luna, you were talking about the song that you have coming out, and you were mentioning it to us a little bit before. You say you have a single out now. I was actually listening to it just before we started
awesome
this. It
single,
sounds
by the
great.
way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, totally. But then you said you've also got something coming out in August. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're working on and what's happening there?
Sure. So I'm starting to promote this. Actually, when is this going to be aired?
Probably in August, but realistically, end of August.
Okay, cool. So I can talk about the song about like what it's actually about and not have to spoil anything because it'll already be out. So, all right. So you guys get like an extra special introduction to the song. Okay. The way I thought of this song was like, you know that "This Is Fine" Adult Swim meme where like the dog's house is on fire and he's just sitting there and he's like, "This is fine."
Yep. This is good.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I was basically picturing this a lot of the time while I was writing, because I'm like, I don't know, when things are just a shit show and then you're like, you know what, I just need to do something that'll make me feel good, or like I just need an escape for like 5 hot seconds, just a minute, okay, like give me a break. But you're sitting in this mess, okay, and it's your own mess. That's basically what the song is about. And that thing that you do that's like for a minute just to feel good is obviously not a good habit. So this song is called Cheaper, and as a joke, I was telling one of my friends, I was like, you know what, like the thing that's the bad habit is me sleeping with a friends with benefits, and obviously it's not the most healthy thing, but you know, sometimes you do what you gotta do. So I was telling a friend
That's great. Yeah.
I was telling a friend as a joke after seeing him one time, that I was like, you know, things aren't great, but at least sleeping in his bed's cheaper than a therapist.
Ooh, I
And-
really like that line. That's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. That is the punchline of the song. Sleeping in your bed's cheaper than a therapist. So, and that's the song Cheaper.
That's
Great.
very cool. I like that.
Awesome. And that's
So-
that's out in August. So by the time people are watching this, it should be they should be able to go and check this out on Spotify. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like,
There-
it's not. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say we should be able to provide links to that, and we'll even throw the meme up on screen so people can relate. If
Cool.
they haven't seen it yet.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I think that like a lot of my life has to do with mental health too, and I think that it's so important to make it more, I guess like less taboo to talk about, because it still kind of is, and like that really sucks. Not for every single part of the community, of course, but like a lot of where I spend my time and like my family and a lot of my friends, it's still really hard to talk about for sure. And I want to change that so badly. And I hate that it's like, ooh, like you talk about therapy, ooh, you're damaged, or ooh, something's wrong, like grow up. But I want to talk about it, and that was such a fun way to address it in kind of like a dark humor way. Obviously, I do go to therapy. I'm not joking about that. And it's something I'm not ashamed to say, or like I'm super proud that I'm getting help I need and like being able to be healthy in all ways that I can. But for some people, that's like, why did you say that? Why are you saying that out loud? Or like, why would you put it in a song?
Yeah, there's a very
And-
taboo element to it that yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Keep it under the rug, keep it behind the door. We don't want to see it. Yeah.
And I hate that so much. And I want to make sure that part of my writing shows that you can be who you are if you want to be, and like you don't have to be ashamed. So I'm trying to write as best as I can about anything I want, like just unapologetically, honestly, whatever I feel like, I'm gonna do it, because you know what, life's too freaking short. So just there's
I
nothing to be sorry.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think people respond to that too. I think some of the best, whether it's a song or it's like an interview with, like I really like watching the YouTube interviews with like drug addicts or with like people who live shadier lifestyles, let's say. I don't want to say the names of any channels specifically because I like, you know, we don't need to get into the legal issues of all of that, but I really like watching videos like that, and I think the stuff that I end up responding to most, and a lot of people end up responding to most, are the more honest it is, and the more somebody is just being themselves, and you can see the vulnerability in them. That's really like that's what connects you to people, because everybody has that vulnerability, everybody has that demon inside of them in some shape or form, and to see that somebody else is also dealing with this or is also able to relate to your own experiences, right? Like that's, you should be writing unapologetically and from the heart, and I think there's a real truth in that, where if you just shy away from it, or it's taboo, or we can't really talk about that, that's not a good thing. Like then you're not being honest with yourself, you're not being honest with your fans and followers, you're not, like, what legacy are you actually leaving behind then when you create your art, you know, if you're being
Exactly.
dishonest. Yeah.
I think when you discuss taboo issues, you're able to connect with people on like a way that they normally don't get to. They're like, man, I want to talk about that. I want somebody to tell me a little bit more about that, but they don't like talking about it. Then I hear this song that's dealing with that issue, and suddenly that's a really special connection for that person.
100%. That's like when I first started listening to music, I was probably like, what? How old are you when you're like grade 3? Like 8?
Yeah, something
I
like
don't
that. Yeah.
That's the first time I like ever listened to like music, like my own will, like not like playing on the radio or like when you're in class and they're playing something, but like I had this like cute little MP3, and it was like I think it's like 1 gigabyte. It's like a Zen MP3, this tiny thing. It was my first ever music device, and like I was so excited. I was like, oh my god, I get to put my own music and all this stuff. And my uncle sat there and like he downloaded music for me, and like the music that I asked him to download, it was like Paramore, 3 Days Grace, My Chemical Romance, mixed in with some Justin Timberlake and Rihanna and whatnot. But like, you know, I was listening to a lot of like heavy darker.
Like for 8 years old,
music.
that's really intense. You know? That's
Well, yeah, it was really intense, but the music that really stuck out to me wasn't like the pop music at that time. Like, it's fun, don't get me wrong. I love Justin Timberlake and Rihanna, but like Paramore has this like soulful way that still gets me to this day, where she sings and the pain that you hear in the lyrics in her voice hits my soul in some other way. Like the lyrics, when you hear it, yeah, that's just a different connection when you hear that vulnerability and like the just how raw it is. That's something special, and I like that's something I really strive to do in my own music too, because that made me instantly fall in love with like that type of music at that time, and I still love it. It has a special place in my heart for sure.
amazing. Yeah, that's
Smooth Johnson and I, we actually used to host karaoke, and we know that a lot of people would always request Paramore. I think a lot of people have like a special connection with that song.
I hadn't even heard of it until we started hosting karaoke, right? Like I
and,
hadn't
and
really.
even people
this
who
wasn't something
couldn't
I knew.
sing, even people who couldn't sing well would still, because they have that connection with the song and they want to, they want to do something,
Yeah.
and they get up and they do that track beginning to end.
Yeah, they don't care. It's just like I feel it, just want to do it.
Yep. They love that track. They want to be, they want to have that special moment with it. And we've always encouraged people at karaoke. We're like, it doesn't matter how well you could sing. It's the amount of good times you have. So
I host an open mic here in Berlin as well once a week, and it's a very similar, like to compare it to the karaoke, it's almost exactly the same, where it's like you're not here because you're a successful multi-platinum artist or some super famous performer. You're here because you want to play, and like when we're all here because we want to express ourselves, and that's exactly what it is with karaoke. It doesn't matter if you're good. It doesn't matter particularly what song you're about to perform. What matters is your emotions and the fact that you're putting them out there. Maybe you are a performer and you do play shows, and you can, like, some people are obviously stronger at singing than others, and like everybody's got their thing, but there's never, when you're in this moment of an open mic or a karaoke, it's not about going to a show and having 1,000 people sing along with you. It's about you being on the stage and being able to get your chance to let it out. It's a therapeutic experience is really what it is. And once you start playing shows as a performer, as like a professional artist, then it becomes the elements of having a job sort of come back into it, where you have to consider, am I getting paid for this? Like how am I going to get people to come out? And like then there are other factors. But if you're just there to sing, and you're just there to play your guitar, like, I wrote this, I hope you like it. I don't care if you like it, but I kind of hope you like it, right? And yeah, that's really what these moments are about. And I think that's what hooks people to make art originally, is that feeling of like, oh, that's what it feels like. I remember the first time I played something for somebody, like, on my guitar, and they were like, that's actually really good. And I'm like, really? Because I'm really sad that you heard that. And you have to get over that. You have to get over that moment of like self-doubt, right? But it's a really cool feeling once you, like, oh, you connected with me. You're singing along to this, and it's such a cool feeling to have that expression come out of you. Yeah.
it kind of goes back to what we mentioned
100%.
earlier, right? You have that self-doubt, and you just got to take a shot and go for it. Like,
Yeah. Honestly, sometimes that is so hard too, where like it's a really nerve-wracking thing where you're showing that vulnerable art and like a side of you that's very special, and like it means so much to you, but to think that other people might not A, understand, or B, really vibe with or like the things that you make is really difficult, because it's something so special and so like dear to you that it's not going to communicate possibly with another person. That's really nerve-wracking, and like for a long time it still is something I struggle with, honestly. It's really hard to get over that hump of like, am I good enough, or like, are they going to like that? And something that really, really helped me get over that, and I'm super thankful for, is my friends. My closest friends are so supportive, and when I was sitting I remember this one specific night where this is probably like third year or like fourth year maybe, when like I decided I was going to be serious about my music and started songwriting more. And this time I had made a full song and I was really happy with it. It was super sad, but like I was so proud of myself for like finishing a song, and I was telling them, and this time I lived with my friends, my best friends, and they were like, play it for us. Like, play it for us later, after dinner or something. So I brought my guitar upstairs and literally went to the room and played them the song, and they were like, can you play it again?
That's such a cool thing. That's like really awesome. You need that
Yeah.
encouragement to... Yeah. I was going to cut in and say something to the effect of like you can't let people's negativity stop you from doing it. Like if
course
somebody
not.
doesn't like it, yeah. But that's I like the direction that you went in general with just
the
like no, they
sentiment
like
is so much nicer.
yeah, like they were just like no, that was amazing. Do more. Like that's
Yeah. It was really special. Like the second time I played it through, one of my friends recorded a little snippet of it, and almost every, like Snapchat, how it has like the reminders of like, oh, you have memories from like this year. And on those memory years, she would send me that recording, like the little video that she had. She'd be like, I missed this. Why don't you play this? And my other friends are like, yeah, I've missed that song. And it's something that is one of my first songs I ever really wrote and like finished. So maybe one day I'll put it out. But that's something that was like really raw and like my kind of like experimental like songwriting kind of bit. So I wasn't like intending to really put it out. It was more like I wanted to practice my songwriting and getting my emotions across the way I wanted it to. But they were like, please put it out, because I would listen to it. I don't care if other people don't. You will have me listening to it. So having supportive people that truly are supportive, not just in your face supportive and behind your back they're not, that's something that really helps push when you have tougher moments of that self-doubt, I find. And to find real friends, some ride or die friends that really support you like that, is something that's like invaluable. And that's the extra kick of support sometimes that you really need, because they're like, they just want to be there, and they want to be there for the process, and they want to hear your stuff, and they were like, why, like, come on, like, I'm ready, like, get out the music, I'm here, I'm ready for this, and like whatever part of the process you're at, I want to be with you by your side, whatever.
I was at it's funny you say that, because I was at dinner last night with some friends, and they're also musicians, and we were talking about like followers on Instagram or just getting fans. But like if you have 50,000 followers or something, they don't necessarily come to your shows. They don't necessarily even like listen to the streams or whatever. It could just be literally a number on social media or whatever. And I was saying, I don't have, by any accounts, I don't have like a vast amount of followers, but the followers that I have are some of the most loyal and dedicated people I have ever encountered. Like, they know the words to my songs, they come to my shows, and there's never a lot of them, but they are consistently there, and they're consistently supportive, and they do tell their other friends and their family members and like their circles of people, and that's
amazing.
That's what you need. Yeah, like I'm not in this to be famous. I'm in this, like I said, I'm in this because I have to be, because like other jobs are just, I've tried them, they're not gonna work for me.
Yeah.
And like to have that kind of backing, to know that when you go out and play, or when you release a song, that like the people who care, like they care enough that they're going to participate and they're going to listen and they're going to enjoy the experience with you. That's really, that alone is enough to make you want to come back and do it again and again and again. So it's just I'm really glad that you said that, and that like you have this understanding also of like just what it's like to have supportive ride or die fans.
Yeah. I think sometimes our fans don't know how much power they actually have, because
For sure.
it's like we make ourselves vulnerable, and sure, somebody could say something silly like, oh, that's a stupid song, and I'm not going to take that to heart or anything. But if you really look into my music and like hear the emotion that I'm trying to put out there, and you criticize that in the right way and say, your heartfelt message is stupid, that could actually really like hurt an artist.
Yeah.
Especially if it's coming from someone who, like, I respect my fans. I've met a lot of them, like,
that
in person, you know what I mean? And to have someone who you, like, can relate to on a personal, friendly level, like, that's, to have them go, fuck you.
Those opinions
Just
mean a
like,
lot. Yeah.
Yeah. That hurts a
Or
lot
the
more than
opposite,
just
right?
some random drunk heckler. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's.
Oh God.
Like, I don't care about them at all. But like if my friend goes, nah, that's not your best work. Like, oh, isn't it? Ah,
Exactly.
Shit. All right.
Yeah.
Or the opposite.
Start
When
sweating.
somebody's like, "That's your best work," you're like, "Oh yeah, you've listened to all my other stuff, and you actually
yeah, you know what
that's
you're
true.
talking
That's
about.
great."
Yeah.
Yeah. I love what you said about like you don't do this because like you've tried the other jobs and whatever, but you do this because you have to. Like there's just no other choice, and that's exactly how I feel. But sometimes it's really hard to explain it to someone who's not an artist or who doesn't
Yeah.
have that same sort of like career path that's very different than just like a 9 to 5 or a very stable job. Like it's really hard to explain to them what that kind of looks like and feels like because there's really no other thing I can do. I've tried. Believe me, I sat in that office, I sat in my little cubicle. Life was just not going. And you don't feel like you're living. That's not living for us.
No, it's not. It's barely surviving. I mean, I've had
Yeah.
jobs. I've had jobs that like paid really well, and you know the hours weren't even that bad, all things considered and stuff. Came with full health insurance and benefits and whatnot. And I remember at one of these jobs, we had to use these big forklift machines, and so we had harnesses that we would wear so we wouldn't fall out of the machines. And I would drag that harness around. It was like a ball and chain. Like literally, it felt like being on a chain gang in a prison. I would just, and like it's just
Yeah.
behind you, and like I would go home and I'd make good money and I'd spend it on beer because I was just like that's how I was getting through the days between shifts because I was just so unfulfilled and it was like a crippling depression that came and like on paper
Yeah.
you're like no, you have a good job, you got a good future, you're going to school and stuff, and it's like yeah, but this is not like it's like I can't be this person. I'm not factory installed like that, you know what I mean? And it's just
Exactly.
yeah.
Honestly. Yeah, no, sorry, go ahead.
No, please, you.
That makes me think so much back to when I was working for a certain government organization that I won't name. So I might get in trouble.
Yep.
I was still in school. I was finishing my last course online, and I got this amazing job. And it was more like an internship, paid internship kind of thing. And I worked there for a certain amount of time. And it was great. Had the benefits. It had decent hours. The pay was amazing, and the location was in Toronto. And at that time, I was living in Aurora, and I wanted to move here. Oh boy, everything looked amazing on paper. My mom was bragging to my family about my amazing job, my accomplishments, because you know what, it looks and sounds great, and I get paid well. You know what, big whoop. I was dead inside, and the people were terrible, one, and I was yelled at by a certain authoritative type individual. That might give you a hint at the type of place I worked at. And I couldn't stand up to them, and when I did bring it to my boss, he then didn't really do anything about it until I kept pestering him, sort of like through emails. I would like to have a meeting about this. Took it to my head of accounting. She then sat me in a separate meeting apart from him and said, you know what, it's really hard to stand up to those types of people, and sometimes you can't. And you can't really do anything about it. And on my very last day, when I decided to quit and not continue this internship for obvious reasons, she basically told me that if I was more Christian enough, that it would solve my issues and I would have a happier life and I would be more fulfilled. And I sat there like, if this is what my future had looked like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Nope.
You know, if you try harder, you could be just like me. Like, well, thanks, but bye. Like,
Yeah, thank you, but no.
peace. Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I'm looking at the clock, and we're hitting the final leg of this conversation. But I do want to say thank you again because this has been delightful.
Yeah, I've been having so much fun with this
Likewise.
conversation.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep going, but yeah,
a
we
lot
gotta
of
reach
fun.
it,
Yeah. We'll definitely we'll have you back in future episodes, and we can catch up and see how you've grown
Awesome.
and progressed. But unfortunately, we have to begin our landing. now, and we always begin our landing descent with getting into the homework part of things.
Right.
And so, do you have any homework specifically that you would like to maybe share or offer to viewers?
Sure. My piece of homework would be to try to write every single day. And it doesn't mean that you have to write an essay. It doesn't mean you have to write a whole song. Just write even a line every single day. I have a notes app in my phone that I just endlessly have in ideas notes. And it just like continue it. It could be like, the sky looked pretty. I don't freaking know. Like, I don't know, something random that doesn't mean anything or can mean a whole bunch of things to you. Just even one line, something like one word to describe something cool you saw that day, what you did. Like if you went somewhere and you were like, I had a really good day going to like the park and it was really nice and peaceful. I don't know, something, anything at all. You can write anything and just go from there, because practicing writing is really what got me to a whole nother level in my songwriting. And it just has to be done every day, because sometimes it snowballs into something else. You think of other things and then you start writing other notes. But that's my major homework tip that I do every day.
So just like one line or one little thought every day.
Every
and
day.
Then see what eventually develops for that.
Mm-hmm. And you can separate it too. It doesn't have to be like a free-flowing continuous note. Sometimes I break it up. Or usually I do break it up because I like to keep ideas separate. And when I go back into notes, or like I'll like find keywords or something when I want to write, I like look back to that section and I'll think about it. And sometimes it creates a really good song.
Yeah,
That's cool.
My songwriting process is similar, where like I'll have a couple of lines. I'm like, oh, that's a good rhyme, or like that goes well.
Mm-hmm.
And then like a month later, you have another one, and you're like, actually, that would go really well with the thing from the other, and you tie them in, and then once you see it flows. And yeah, I really, I like this homework. It's very nice.
And also, like, when you write about an event, it can, when you look back at it, you could remember the time that you wrote about that time, right? And sometimes what I do when I write is I create a place in my story and I'll piece together bits like this scene. So like this part of the movie is from that part where I went from that part in the note, and things like that, where I get ideas and things like that, and you just Frankenstein your way into a song. But yeah.
I love it.
I like it.
I'm all for it. So thank you very much. You have been Where Is Luna. Right before we say goodbye, is there anywhere that people can find you? It's shameless self-promotion time. So if you have anything you want to plug, or if there's links or anything, please let us know. And now's your time.
I'm on Instagram at WhereIsLuna. And you can find lots of links. I'll have a Linktree link in my bio that you can click, and it'll lead you to SoundCloud, pre-save for the song. Actually, the song will be out by this time. So Spotify link, Apple Music, and a whole bunch of other things there. All a bunch of goodies in my Linktree.
Amazing. Okay, so
awesome.
Yeah. Where is Luna, everybody? Please check her out. She is super talented. She's got her second single is right now. It's on the way, but by the time you see this, it will be here. And yeah, we have had an absolute blast. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Same. Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime.
Awesome. Hopefully we'll do it again soon. Everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for checking out Where Is Luna and her music. Like and subscribe below.
Yeah. If you like Artists Under Construction, please remember to give us a click and a follow as well, because it's 8 seconds for you. It's the difference between me fitting my children or not. So please, thank you guys. But yes, thanks again, and we will see you guys in the next episode. I have been Moves Johnson.
I've been Neon Tom. Thank you very much for watching. We love you.
How do I do it? Does I go there?
Oh, it has the...
Yep, you got it.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.